So, for our next match against Ice Power, it is going to be Norska against Bretonia. We're playing some rush games because the tournament is coming up. So, let's see how well we can do here. We have many ice trolls to actually help punch through the lines of Bretonians, and specifically to punish any cavalry that comes into cycle charge. We want to be punching through the front line as quickly as possible, and we're going to be trying to flank these Bretonian forces to dive in onto the back line, using burning heads to clear up, I guess to clear up the front line, since it's looking pretty thin by the looks of it. So that's going to be the goal. Wulfric, he's going to dive right on in. Let's go ahead and throw down a boat, bring in the dogs, and it looks like Ice Power does dodge the first boat. Going to be a little bit rough, but we can continue pushing forwards, continue distracting cavalry with our more mobile forces. We'll give some fire damage to all the forces over here, then throw down that burning head to clear up all the archers. Now, many of the knights are distracted, and Wulfric is actually taking a bit of a beating, getting focus fired by Lewin, but things might turn in our favor now that the front line has actually collapsed for Norska. I mean, for Bretonia. Look, I just woke up, okay? So that's gonna be the plan. Lewin, he's taking a lot of damage, but putting in a lot himself. He might actually go down, though, as he gets very close to routing off. But the same could happen for Wulfric, too. He's taken a lot of damage and is on the verge of routing. But, at the very least, we get Lewin to rout. And that's going to be a huge loss for the Bretonians. Wulfric will have to retreat. And Lewin is receiving a good amount of healing. We can shut him down, though, with a fireball. And hopefully, Wulfric will be able to come back and not get gooned out by Lewin in the late game. If he does land, we have our ice trolls at the ready. The loss of Wulfric could actually get those ice trolls routed off almost immediately. So we'll have to play very, very carefully here. In the meantime, we still have our mobile skirmishers who will be able to actually kill off these archers that have routed off. So we're just going to send them over to go ahead and get that done. We still have many, many ice trolls too. So I think we should be okay. We'll just dodge the cavalry and stay away from them, and use our ice trolls to hunt down other units of cavalry. Our goal right now specifically is to kill as many archers as we can, since the archers are the biggest threat to my trolls. The cavalry aren't especially scary unless they actually start routing off trolls, but it looks like that might not happen as long as we bring in some support, and we will actually have that as Wulfric comes on in. More peasant archers rallying will be able to shoo him off. Looks like my boat even misses the peasant archers a little bit. Didn't get nearly as much damage as I would have wanted, but the archers may very well just rout off anyways. As for Lewin, he is going to be routing off some of my wolf units, but in the meantime we will be able to spam some fireballs on top of him, and that should get him to rout off eventually over the course of the game. But it could take a while, and we're going to be saving our winds of magic so that we can actually do that. As for Wulfric, he'll be able to snipe out this damsel of life pretty easily, and then that should be the end of the healing for the Bretonians, and also the end of healing for Lewin, since he has routed off. And when he does rout, it does make it so he can't heal. So that's going to be really nice. The fireballs getting in quite a bit of damage. And then a little bit of wolf micro to kill off the archers should actually secure the victory for us, despite a little bit of a near gooning attempt on Wulfric. There we go. The wolves have successfully chased off some archers, but it looks like they'll just barely keep it together. However, that attack does buy time for our other wolves to dive into the peasant archers again. And then just a little bit of skirmishing back and forth looks like is all we'll need to pull out the victory. Ice Power actually leaving what feels a little bit early, but nevertheless, it was still pretty heavily in my favor. We had a lot of ice trolls left, and yeah, basically it. Once the archers were down, there wasn't much he could have really done to finish off the army there. So, here we go. It is Coast against Skaven of Ice Power. We're up 1 game. And we've gone for a double Leviathan rush. We're going to be dodging with Silostra as much as we can. And just advancing with our zombies. To close in onto these Skaven forces. You can dodge a lot of the shots with Silostra. We're not especially worried there. And eventually, we should be able to run them out of ammunition on a lot of fronts. Well, not especially worrisome, as we can keep them back with the deck dropper flyers, and as soon as we can start routing off some of these gutter runners, then we should be good to go. I'm going to be pulling back for my forces, so we'll knock them down. A good old tide call, and with the main engagement going down, we're now going to rush in with our Leviathans and our Scurvy Dogs. Some AoE does come down onto my troops, but since our advance is continuing to move, that won't be too much of a problem. And let's see, we'll just be hitting up the tail slashers, I guess, with the bombers, and then trying to punch through this front line. Silostra and throw down a Knights Errant summon. A little bit of a risky proposition, as the Knights will the summoned Knights, they can't get netted down by the warp grinders, and I'm a little bit worried about that, so we'll hold them until we can get to a better situation, and then we're going to have them chase off those Jezzails. In the meantime, our flyers are going to move in. I guess they'll snipe out the Warlock Engineer, and our Rotting Leviathan is going to be bouncing between the range units, just being a general nuisance. And there we go, there is our summon. We shall send it in onto the onto those Jezzails, since they are the main source of AP for the Skaven. And we should be able to ride them down, since these warp grinders are actually pretty far away. Our Leviathan will eventually go down, unless we actually bring it into some spears, and that's what we're going to do. And if we can actually catch out these natty boobos, that will be a huge win for us. We may have to bring in some of our forces to actually assist there, though. And I think I'm going to bring in some Scurvy Dogs to help in that fight. Our deck droppers, too, can fly in to assist if needed also. So that's going to be the plan. While these damn Knights Errant continue to try and break through this this line. It looks like they will actually go down, though. But things are still going okay. Specifically, our Scurvy Dogs being alive is quite huge here, as they will be able to push back the majority of those range units. And we even have our Rotting Leviathan alive on the flank, still doing absolutely fine. So, yeah, we should be good. Scurvy Dogs now closing in onto these troops. We have 2 units of them, so they can win against these Wolf Rats for the Skaven. That's not too worrisome. We'll even decrease their leadership with a spell from Silostra. It's a really nice tech pick against Wolf Rats, since you can quite easily get them to rout as long as you have the right tools. As for all these slingers on the side, we're not worried about them at all, since they we're not worried about them at all, since they are just low AP units, and our Wolf Rats will be able to clear them out. Not to mention Silostra with her high armor too won't be taking too much damage from them. It's really just Thought that will pose a major threat here. And there we go, our Scurvy Dogs have chased off the units of the Skaven, specifically these very expensive units too. And that's going to be the main source of their AP now out of the game. We still have Silostra, our distraction. Rotting Leviathan has successfully sacrificed its life for the glory of the Vampire Coast. It served well. It wasn't really meant to kill much. It was really just for a distraction, and it did manage to distract 3 units of Night Runners, and maybe a unit of Skaven Slave Slingers too, which is all I really could have asked for it. So at this point in the game, we're now just regrouping with our forces. We want to have a few zombies here to make sure that they don't get we don't get overrun by the Skaven. And we do actually have we have about 3 units of zombies plus some bombers. That's going to be more than enough for us in this situation. Throt is going to be a little bit scary here, as he is a fairly high damage lord. He has regeneration, but our 4 deck droppers is going to be more than enough to handle him. So with our troops now lining up, all we got to do is finish up the game. Silostra will be leading the charge to disrupt all the range units, and then the deck droppers are going to be sniping out Throt. We have our Kraken's Pull if the slingers ever decide to clump up, which they probably won't, and because of that, I'll instead be spamming out Tide Calls on them, as it will knock them over. That should work out pretty well. Fog of the Damned also for the leadership debuff. Whenever I see the leadership gets low for the Skaven and an opportunity presents itself, that's going to be the plan. We have a bunch of different options here, from debuffs to Song of Enthrallment. So I'm feeling very, very confident here. So to start off, we'll just be moving up our bombers to begin pushing back the Skaven slingers. Silostra, he will stay fairly far away from these forces, but you know what? I think we probably can just dive in onto these high ammunition slingers over here. These gutter runners and Skaven slaves. We don't want them to be using up the rest of their ammunition. Otherwise, I'll probably be able to kill off all my zombies. So let's just go ahead and dive Silostra directly onto them. And then while they retreat, we'll be able to fly in with our deck droppers to hopefully kill them out. And here we go. The engage begins. We'll slow them down with some Tide Call. And we can see Throt has already started taking a lot of damage from these deck droppers. These slingers are getting pushed back by my zombies, so I have no worry for them. And now our scurvy dogs can come in to kill off all the slingers. They turn to fire onto them, so just to distract them as much as possible, we can dodge with our dogs, and then they won't be too much of a threat anymore. A nice opportunity for a Kraken's Pull over here. I'm going to throw that down to catch out some of these units. Looks like I actually miss a few, but the Kraken's Pull should still be able to get in a lot of damage. And there we go. With the Skaven slaves now routing off, Throt getting shot by these deck gunners. I think we managed to do it, although just barely, as he is actually doing a lot of damage to Silostra, but the complete coward actually routing off at 2/3 HP. I guess just the damage and the debuffs from Silostra were a little bit too much for him, and we can safely escort him off the map with our deck droppers. We're shooting at him too to make sure that he doesn't come back, and that's going to be army losses for Ice Power. A pretty decisive 2-0 win for us, finally pulling back that victory against them. And nice, working out pretty good. I really like this Vampire Coast build against Skaven. It's just really great. The scurvy dogs get to perform amazingly, and even though there are a lot of slingers, we just have too many bombers to really handle. Wow, those deck droppers too got a lot of value. Pretty good in general. GG. So here we go. We are going to be playing some Beastmen against the Skaven. We have a usual army with some mobility. Maybe a few more doggos than you usually have. Just a nice fun pick by me. And we're just going to be rushing straight into this Skaven formation. Keeping back with our casters specifically, since we don't want them to get shot up to death. And with some simple dodging back and forth. That should be enough to dodge any Giselle fire that comes in. I do expect quite a few range units here, since this front line is really just Skaven slaves and some plague monks. A lot of my opponent's money is definitely missing. So just an initial AoE onto these Skaven slaves. Gonna be putting in a lot of damage to start off. Might even get them routed, but it doesn't look like that will be the case. Nevertheless, the damage is still quite good, as it will get them to route easier, and then we can chase them off with our mobile forces. The goal is just getting in on top of all these ranged troops as quickly as we can, and then using our archers to kill off any monstrous troops for the Skaven. Could take a while though to actually get in on top. And we also want our cavalry at the ready. They were actually pretty far away, and they came in at a little bit of a delay. But now that we finally reached the Skaven forces, we should be able to do much better now. So just rushing in onto the Skaven slave slingers to prevent their damage. They actually have fairly high DPS for their cost, so it's important that you actually rout them off. The teeth breakers too definitely need to get shut down, as they are gunning down my rat ogres. And for our cavalry, we'll use them to start collapsing in onto the back line. There are some poison wind mortars here too, but we have our dogs to close in on top of them. And with our cavalry advantage, I think we should be fine. Our rattling guns are able, not our rattling guns, our Ungor raiders are able to shoot down the rat ogres. And now that we actually have a nice melee engagement, really the biggest threat I think are probably the storm vermin halberds. So my goal is going to be taking them out. We'll throw down our AoEs on top of them, and that should be able to finish them off quite cleanly. Our wolf rats are able to chase... Man, I'm naming everything wrong today. I'm just calling everything by Skaven names. Our poison dogs are going to be able to chase off any troops that route off. Same with our chariot lord. And it's just going to be a pretty clean win. There is a Deathmaster Snicketch though, lurking around the back, but I think our dogs will probably be able to kill him off. He doesn't have the best melee defense stats, I think, so he should take a lot of damage from that. I really just have to worry that he doesn't throw down his AoE on top of my dogs and then ends up killing them all. So just a little bit of micro charging in and out on top of Snicketch should be able to prevent that as best as possible. Not to mention army losses are coming up soon, and a pretty clean win in quick battle. Pretty one-sided. And yeah, this is just a traditional Beastman build against Skaven. Usually I think nowadays they'll have to kite to beat a build like this. Just trying to hold your ground will generally get run over by Chaos Spawn, and basically what we saw happen that game.